and with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. Glory to you, O Lord. In the course of his teaching, reading from the Holy Gospel according to John. God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, so that everyone who believes in him might not perish, but might have eternal life. For God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but that the world might be saved through him. Whoever believes in him will not be condemned, but whoever does not believe has already been condemned, because he has not believed in the name of the only Son of God. The Gospel of the Lord Jesus.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. How strong is love? Let's make it personal. How much do any of us make decisions because of love? Do we think that love is nice, but real world decisions are based on how much we will make, or how we can appease or use the prevailing social and political powers? We celebrate today the Feast of the Holy Trinity. This is God's answer to this question, and it comes none too soon. During the Easter season, we read in the Gospel of John, "On that day you will realize that I am in my Father, and you are in me, and I in you. Also, as the Father loves me, so I also love you. Remain in my love." And one more, so that they may all be one, as you, Father, are in me, and I in you, that they may also be in us, that the world may believe that you sent me. The God revealed by Jesus Christ wishes to be seen as relationships. Because these relationships are loving, they are personal. Indeed, the most accurate definition of a person is simply someone who is loved. Most extraordinarily of all, Jesus invites us to join in that love. The clearest image that we have of God is of a community, indeed a family, and one in which we can participate. We participate by treating others as persons. I give you a new commandment: love one another as I have loved you. So you also should love one another. This is how all will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another. We do not call God Father and ourselves brothers and sisters out of polite convention, but as a description of reality. Only if I see you as my brother or sister, as infinitely and irreversibly precious, can I obey God and become who he calls me to be. We see this in our individual lives. A heart doctor was asked what people should do to maintain good heart functions during the pandemic. He said what you would expect: exercise, employ a rational diet, and remember to take your medication. He then stopped and with some hesitation said, maintain strong personal relationships. He acknowledged that this did not sound very scientific, but he assured his audience that it was true. This should come as no surprise to us. This is the first thing to remember. God has made us this way. We can only thrive together. Sin, ultimately, is anything which causes this community to deteriorate. It begins by seeing another person as different from ourselves. There is never an insignificant distinction. Once we divide native or foreigner, male or female, straight or gay, born or unborn, we are on a very slippery slope, which with unseemly speed ends in seeing others as competitors. Then the most powerful will declare themselves superior to all others, and all others in varying degrees inferior. In America, the fatal distinction is race, a belief that difference essentially in skin color defines who we are, with people with white skin superior to people with dark skin. This is the original sin of America, not only because it is so old, but because it is so deep and so wide. We have seen it develop over the last few months, with the disparity between the death rates of white and Black people with COVID-19. Black people make up 13% of the population, but have experienced over 24% of COVID-related deaths. And very recently, with the deaths of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor in macabre police actions. With either of these events have occurred to white people, who legislators and police considered the same as them, brothers and sisters. Lack of brotherly love is literally against nature, and its fruits are fear and anger. We have seen this all around us. What can we do? As citizens, we can take appropriate action, knowing now unambiguously that better health care can prevent death in some populations. We can hold our legislators to account and be certain that health care is provided to all. We can forbid the kinds of policing that are virtually guaranteed to be abused, like chokeholds and stand your ground laws. We can also be specific. We have heard calls to upgrade curriculum in our schools to include the history of racism, a splendid idea. Do you know how these decisions are made in your area? Do you know who makes them? Do you have a relationship with any one of these people? How could you become one of them? The danger in crisis situations is to think only in terms of massive structural change and not see what we can do to organize here and now to make local, tangible change in less time than you might imagine. So I ask you again, how strong do you consider love? Our faith in the Trinity tells us as Catholic Christians that what is not based on mutual love, relations between equals, will ultimately betray us. Do we believe that God's love is as solid as the wood of this altar and more powerful than the principalities and powers that seem to dominate our lives? It is not as if we do not have a modern example. Historian Taylor Branch wrote a multi-volume biography of Martin Luther King, subtitled America in the King Years. He believed that there was a second American Revolution between 1955 and 1968, and Dr. King was its George Washington. Civil rights were part of it, but its defining characteristic was nonviolence. Dr. King and his associates saw their opponents as brothers and sisters and acted accordingly. This was and is not a strategic move as much as a recognition of the deepest reality. It is now fashionable to criticize Dr. King and those original leaders. Yet I ask those who do so, show me your victories. What have they done? What have they accomplished? The successes that I have seen in my years of the priesthood have come out of churches and that have carried the torch of the primacy of love. Many in our parish who have become involved in the work of Catholic Charities during the pandemic have seen this flame still burning. Yet there is a point, indeed two, to this criticism, and Dr. King knew them well. The first was the extent and the fear and anger caused by racism, that it had to be addressed on many fronts. Racism is the COVID-19 of our country because it reveals and uses every other evil that has been regrettably a pre-existing condition. Dr. King opposed the war in Vietnam, although this lost the support of President Johnson. He sought greater economic equality for all people. This lost some Union allies. Politically, these were bad moves in the short term, but he has been vindicated. Whatever tactical gains he might have by ignoring these issues would have morally eviscerated his movement. The second was the breadth of the coalition. There were white people, often on the front lines, and I am proud of the priests and sisters who participated. But where were the bankers, mechanics, policemen, and perhaps most importantly, the blue-collar union men like my father and grandfathers? Whole sectors of society were and indeed are missing from this effort. And without them, without us, we cannot expect a truly national conversion. Options will develop, and we must be prepared to choose, both as individuals and as a parish, in which we wish to become involved. My personal wish is to be at a prayer service with both members of the police force and members of the wider Catholic community, black and white, speaking every language, and praying with each other even more than for each other. What is not based on the love revealed by Jesus may be a real reform, but will not cure the underlying condition. Injustice is almost infinitely creative and will reappear in another guise, a hydra head of evil. If we do not see each other as persons, brothers and sisters, we will find a reason to hate and to exploit each other. How much will we risk for love? No justice, no peace is often heard and much chanted, but the Christian message completes it. No love, no justice.